we all know that Ekitike has performed for Liverpool, and he's finally got his call up for France. But previously to this, and it's well known, it's seen that he was trying to play for Cameroon, and the Cameroon coach had a lot to say about it. The Cameroon coach said there's a reason why he hasn't called him up, etc. All these things has happened, and it sparks the conversation. And I had this conversation in my mind and wanted to speak about this for so long on this show because it's the conversation about what is the thoughts and opinions around players choosing nationalities. We've seen it for years, especially when it comes to English players, especially when it comes to players who don't get chosen for England and then ends up going somewhere else, or throughout their academy careers, they're choosing other countries and then ended up representing England. And I think there is a bigger conversation that comes around it, especially in this generation and where we are and where we're at. Even down to recently, Wan-Bissaka obviously has represented Congo in his early academy years, then ended up going to represent England in the under 20 sort of phase, and then now he's at wanted to play for or potentially being called up to Congo again. So this conversation, I think, is very important when it comes to this football life and understanding what is it about players choosing nationality. We are in a very multicultural, a very dual heritage generation. Players who have parents from multiple places, players who have parents who are born in one place, but then guess what? The child is born somewhere else. And let's be honest, like let's be totally honest. I have the opinion of it's getting very confusing on choosing what nationality to represent. There's so much that goes into this, right? And when you look at a story like a Declan Rice or a Jack Grealish, these are two players that represented Ireland at academy stage, and then ended up getting snubbed or felt a type of way from when they chose England. And then now we're seeing, Ekitike going for this situation. We've had conversations of Raheem Sterling. Could he have represented Jamaica? Certain players like Mikel Antonio doesn't get choose for England, ends up going and representing Jamaica and this, that. And it's the question of, are these countries second choices? I don't think it's as blunt to look at it like that. I think we have to look at it from the perspective of many players and have their own sort of reasonings, right? They have their own reasons behind things. And let's take it from this perspective. One, you have that player who is born and raised in a certain country. Yes, their parents could be African. Yes, their parents could be Irish. Yes, their parents could be from somewhere else, right? But guess what? They are born and raised in a certain place. So your friends are from the country that you was born in. The lessons and the things that you've learned throughout your life, the environment you've been raised in, right? Let's just take Ekitike, for example. His environment that he's raised in and that he knows is French. His family at the moment were living in France. There's so many things that go into that. And yes, his heritage is from Cameroon. So for me, it's like when he's choosing to play for France, is that a choice that he's making due to the fact of that is just what he knows? But then we also see that he's trying to choose Cameroon, and is that a second choice? Well, if you're from a dual heritage background, you might understand it a bit more because it is really difficult to choose that. When we look at just history alone, we're looking at migration and immigration and things that have happened. People who have fled war, people who have been able to get their children to safety and set up camp in other countries. We've seen multiple races in multiple countries now, especially in this generation coming alive. More and more players who are playing for Spain who are maybe more black within their heritage. We're looking at people who are Dutch, who have Ghanaian backgrounds. Again, there is so much that can go into this. Yes, your parents may be from somewhere. Yes, they did everything they can. But when you're being raised somewhere, when you're being raised in an environment, sometimes that is all you know. We can look at the brothers, Rafinha and Thiago Alcantara. One represented Spain, the other represented Brazil. Does that mean one is wrong or right, or this one is stubbing this country, that country? And I think in football, when it comes to representing your country, it's starting to potentially hit a grey patch and a grey area. And it's starting to look at, you know, are you just doing this for the trophies? Are you just doing this because you get to have a potential better career and do so? Are they wrong for doing that? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Because for me, where I stand, I just think it's a tricky place to be. It's a real tricky place to be, and I think it's very harsh, and I think it's hard to really sit there and kind of make a player feel a type of way because they didn't represent this half of themselves or that half of themselves, or they didn't represent where their parents are from. Because you got to remember, they are born in a certain place. For me, again, it's one of those ones, it depends on what suits you. It depends on what you feel. I believe when it comes to choosing your nationality, you have to choose the place that feels more like you and feels more like home and feels more like what you represent. And I think that's the choice. That's the way a player should be choosing. Do I think players are wrong that, again, players like Tammy Abraham, for example, chosen to represent England, and all these other players who chose to represent maybe a country of higher stature or higher ranking? Do I think they're wrong for doing that? No. Do I then think they're wrong for then saying, okay, well, clearly they don't want me to represent that, but I also have another heritage that I could be represented by? Do I think they're wrong for then going there? Yes and no. I think yes, because again, I believe you should stand on the choice you make. But also, two, I also understand the fact that you represent multiple countries.
If you're still here, that means you want to take your football career seriously. And every aspiring player needs to build a plan, a blueprint. And that is why we created our Footballer's Guide for players just like you. Head to the link in the description, buy our ebook, and start taking control of your blueprint today. Oh, and one more thing. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Love.